Hello everyone, I'm Daniel Gamble, and this is Things You Thought the Bible Said, but it doesn't. Today's phrase that we're going to examine is a common evangelical trope that is often used in salvation altar calls. It goes like some variation of this: you better get right with the Lord right now, because this may be the last time He deals with you before He turns you over to a reprobate mind. Now, the Bible verse often employed in support of this concept is Genesis chapter 6, verse 3, where in the beginning of the verse says, "My spirit shall not always strive with man." Now, the verse is taken to mean that you better respond to the conviction you're feeling at that moment and come to the altar during the altar call to pray the sinner's prayer, because the Holy Spirit may not convict you anymore and you won't be able to be saved. Now, there are a lot of issues with this idea and usage of this verse. First, this is a completely distorted view of reprobation. Reprobation is not a condition reserved only for people who have refused multiple failed attempts by the Holy Spirit to convince us to get saved. Reprobation is the state that all human beings are in until and unless they are saved. It is another word for man's depravity in his fallen condition, wherein he is dead in his trespasses and in his sins. Now, a second major issue tied to the first is how this completely ignores and undercuts God's sovereignty and salvation. God does not fail, and He accomplishes all of His purposes and plans. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly here to this topic, it takes this verse completely out of its context and makes it about the Spirit's effort to convict unconvinced sinners of their sins, doing His absolute best to save them, but failing the vast majority of the time. The problem is context. God is clearly talking about the extended lifespans of early humans. In chapter 5, there's a long genealogy spelling this out and ending with Noah being 500 years old before he has his kids. And then at the beginning of chapter 6, it talks about how man has spread himself over the face of the earth, while in the process being corrupted by falling angels mating with human women to produce hybrid beings called the Nephilim. The longer lifespans are no longer needed or profitable. Now, most critical is the fact that the Hebrew is the same word for breath, spirit, and wind. It is the context that reveals what the proper usage will be in each sense. Genesis chapter 6, verse 3 is clearly talking about the breath of life and how God is shortening man's life from that point on. Chapter 6, verse 3 of Genesis, "Then the Lord said, My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. So, please stop using this phrase. It's not biblical or doctrinally correct to use it in this way. That's it. We'll see you next time. God bless.